Welcome to the 5th edition of Andover Central Sports Central. Today we're going to we're just going to go through a few questions that are going on in the sports world. And we'll start off with Z and the college football playoff.
Yeah, so the first question we have today is just has to do with the college football playoff. Obviously there's a lot of discussion about maybe expanding it even further. Obviously people like the playoff more than the old system of the FES. So I'm really thinking there would be some good discussion here about this.
My thing here is that with a 4-team playoff like we have right now, I think almost every year one team gets screwed. That they have a great season, even win a power conference, and then you don't make it to the playoff. And I just think that's a legitimate team that could win it all.
And I agree with that. I just think it's dangerous. I think if you expand it much past like 8, or I think 8 might be. I'm in favor of 6, which I don't think would ever happen because they want to do buys. But I think that if you expand it too much, it devalues the regular season. Like I think that Ohio State-Michigan game, it had a playoff feel almost because each team knew that when whoever was lost was done, and that makes the regular season more interesting when every single week you know you're battling.
You're battling for one of those playoff spots.
Because if you had an 8-team playoff, I mean, you could have a team with 2 bad losses or a team with 3 losses, and that's just.
It does devalue some of those regular season games.
Yeah.
The big thing that I really like about the 8-team playoff, though, rather than the 4-team, is just the fact that, I mean, if you look at the rankings today, right? So we got Wisconsin and Oklahoma sitting at the 6-7 slots.
Mm-hmm.
Now with those 2 teams, I know they're not the Bama, they're not Ohio State, but they can compete with those teams, I believe.
Yeah.
And I think kind of keeping it to 4 keeps out a possible, now hear me with possible, national champion out of the playoff. And you can't do that. I mean, if you look at college basketball, it's a 64-team playoff, which obviously you can't do that.
You can't do that
in college football. But never once is the possible champion of the tournament left out. I mean, with 4 teams, it's just really hurting that as a possibility.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, if you're going to call them 5 power conferences, you're going to assume that the winner of that conference is a legitimate contender in the country, and you're going to only have a 4-team playoff, leaving one of those teams out. And I think if you see Washington winning it here and then not getting included in the playoff, I think they're kind of getting gypped out of that.
Yeah, I definitely think with whatever happens this year, somebody's going to be unhappy, and I think next year or the year after, we're going to wind up with an 8-team playoff.
I'm just to counter that point, I went back and looked at some of the last college football rankings. In 2014, the 7th and 8th team were Mississippi State and Michigan State, who both had 2 losses. Mississippi State went their bowl game and lost by 15 to a not that great Georgia Tech team, which, you know, I question how much they really deserve to be in the playoff. And then you look at 2015, and you had the 8th team that year was TCU, who I think lost in their bowl game to Oregon last year. Remember that? I mean, they had the Trayvon Boykin incident I don't know if that's a team that deserves to be in the playoff.
Whether or not they can contend with those teams like Alabama.
And I think that does disrespect to teams like Alabama and Clemson and Oklahoma last year, who had great years, and then what they did in the regular season seems less valuable when you let a team like TCU from last year.
Yeah, but at the same time, I don't know how you can talk about a 10-2 TCU in the Big 12. I mean, I know the Big 12 isn't the SEC, but 10-2 in the Big 12 is still respectable. I mean, I feel like you're just taking that away from them. Like that's still a decent. That's more than a decent. That's a great season. I feel like they
great enough to compete for a national championship.
I mean, why not put them in a team? Put them in with 8 other teams.
Because you had 2 other teams. You had Alabama, who ran through their conference, had 1 loss early in the season, and then just had decimated everyone they played the rest of the stretch. Why should they have to compete against a TCU team who just did not have the same resume?
I mean, then why not just give Bama the title after the
regular
season if you want to go with that? I mean,
what it comes down to here is
they have to play.
You basically have to have an undefeated season unless you're in the SEC and maybe get lucky. But it comes down to if you lose, your chances of getting in are very slim.
I just think letting teams in with more than even 1 loss, I just think that I don't know. You're only playing 12 games a year, and I mean, because if you lose, that means you're losing 1/6 of your games if you go 10-2, which I don't know. I think to play for now, especially since football is something where it's so. I mean, you're only going to play. It's not like basketball where you play 30-something games during the regular season. I mean, the games are going to count less when there's only 30-something games. But when there's 12 games, I think you want to make those games as valuable as possible.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. I would really like to see a few more teams in it, but I guess we'll see what happens the next coming years. All right, now we're going to jump down to Tony Romo, obviously Dak Prescott's been doing wonders down there in Dallas' rookie
Sure
season.
has, right.
So, I mean, guys, what's next for Tony Romo?
I think nobody's going to value Tony Romo more than the Cowboys do, even with Dak Prescott, because the injuries he's had, and I mean, being a quality quarterback, let alone the injuries and whatnot, he's not going to go somewhere cheap. Like, and with injuries, I can't imagine anybody is that thrilled to take on Tony Romo.
But do you think he really wants to sit on the bench for the last couple of years of his career?
That's that. Yeah,
I mean,
I agree. It's a
guys-
tough situation in that sense. But
Yeah, Tony Romo, obviously, he's 36 years old.
Yeah.
He's played 12 seasons with the Cowboys.
at max, I say he's got 3 or 4, like
I
3 or
think
4
so,
max.
too.
It's
Yeah.
time to change. I mean, he's had some success. I mean, he's had 5 playoff appearances in his 12 seasons at Dallas, which is respectable. I mean, that's good. But he's never made it past a divisional, so he's never played for a conference championship. Which there's a lot of. I mean, there's good quarterbacks who haven't. So I mean, you can't just judge it off that. But I just think, I mean, he's getting up there in age. I think it would be the smart thing to do here is, I mean,
You ride it
think
out.
about
you ride it
walking
out with
away.
the Cowboys, or you just walk away.
I think about walking away now. I mean, he's had a good career in Dallas. Why waste this? I mean, I don't know.
I mean, there have been quarterbacks who have left their team. I mean, look at Peyton Manning. There, if he would have just walked away after his, I mean, he had a
He won a
serious
Super Bowl.
injury, just like Tony. I mean, he misses that entire year with the Colts with that neck injury, and he went somewhere. I mean, and some people say Denver is the destination for
No,
Tony
I mean that's a
Romo
good
after
point,
this
but I
year.
mean I don't think Tony Romo's Peyton Manning. But
That's true.
It's
I
a
agree
smaller
with that.
scale,
I agree
but
with that. But I think
a lot of it applies still
Yeah.
with the situation.
yeah, we'll see what happens.
so.
I mean,
One question I do have with that though is, if you do think he decides to go to somewhere else next year, what destinations do you think are ideal for Tony Romo?
Tony Romo destinations. I mean, obviously, like you guys mentioned,
You're gonna
Denver,
look
it's
somewhere
not-
desperate. I mean,
I think he'll
anybody-
still go somewhere good.
Yeah, I would
Like,
say,
I don't
I mean-
think he won't go to the Browns.
That's what
Like,
I was about to
yeah.
say. Cleveland. I mean, you got to throw them.
Yeah.
in. They're looking for a quarterback,
Yeah.
but I mean, is he really just gonna? I mean, that would pretty much throw his career.
Oh yeah,
away if
no, that'd
he
be a
decided
terrible
do
way to
that.
end his career. I mean, if he's gonna go somewhere, he wants to go.
And
somewhere
those
where he can
those
win.
teams that need a quarterback, they don't want a quarterback that's got maybe a couple more years and is injury prone. Like
Yeah.
if you look at the Jets or something, they're not going to want
Yeah.
somebody who won't be around for very long.
I agree. All right. Well, I guess we'll see what happens with old Tony.
No doubt. Yeah.
All right. So for our last question today, we got NCAA basketball early season. What teams have been impressive to you guys so far?
I think you gotta look at Baylor. I mean, they're 6-0
Yeah.
right now. They're 6 in the RPI. I think they're 11 in the AP poll. They got wins over VCU, Louisville, and Oregon and Michigan State. I mean, those are all 4 teams that were, I mean, probably our tournament teams.
Well. I'm not going to get too high.
You don't
on
think
Michigan State right here?
I mean, they've
disciplined.
played like one of the hardest schedules in the
And, I mean,
country.
who have they beaten?
Wichita State.
Oh,
What are you
Wichita
talking about? The
State.
Sharks? I mean, that's a tournament team. You tell me the Sharks aren't going to the
Well,
tournament?
they have to. They'll win the NBC, and if they don't, Greg Marshall should.
Better watch
Retire.
out for
I
retire.
mean,
You better watch out for Northern Iowa. They're 5th in the RPI. They're got wins over OU, Arizona State.
Yeah, those are all solid games. All right. Well, I mean, while you guys talk, go ahead. Keep talking
I'm very
about the
impressed with
Bears.
Jonathan Motley. With he got Player of the Week last week in their win for the Battle for Atlantis or whatever it was. I just think Baylor is really, I don't know. This just looks like a new type of Baylor with the way they're playing.
I agree. And their finishing game, I mean, that's a Scott Drew
They're
classic.
playing together,
It's
aren't
just
they? They're
choking
playing
down the
as a team.
stretch, and they came back against Louisville. I think
So,
Louisville
In past
was
years,
a
you've
basketball
seen
team.
talent, and then they choke later in
Yeah.
the season. But I don't think you've ever seen them have big wins like this often.
I mean, like Clark said, this is a new Baylor team. I'm going to be 100% honest. I've been obviously a Kansas basketball fan. I know the Big 12. This looks like a very similar Baylor team to years
They're never
past.
a player like Jonathan Motley. They haven't seen that in several years.
Rico Gathers.
Rico Gathers was not a Big 12 player of the week type of guy.
I'm just saying.
12 player of the
Big 12
week.
player of the week.
When did he get that?
I don't know. I don't stay in tune with that thing. All I'm saying is Kansas will once again have to carry the Big 12 on their back through the tournament because we know what Baylor does in the tournament, so I don't think that'll be a shock. Top of the AP polls, college basketball, you got Kentucky, Nova, UNC, all unranked or all undefeated teams. None of them have any huge wins. I mean, Kentucky beat Michigan State, which I haven't been
I
impressed
mean,
with.
Nova beat Purdue.
Nova beat Purdue. UNC has a big game against Indiana tomorrow, so that'll be a big test. Obviously, they knocked off the Jayhawks in an overtime win early in the year. So, I mean, those teams, obviously the Hawks, gotta love the backcourt. They're tough. Maybe not as talented as Kentucky. They have a real talented backcourt, but I think they've been playing really hard, and I think that's going to carry them far.
And you mentioned Indiana. How about you go from beating KU and Maui, and then you lose at Fort Wayne?
Oh,
I don't know what that
The
was.
Mastodons. that's one of the best upsets we might see all
Just
year.
credits
Yeah.
KU in a sense.
All right. Well, that was our questions today. I guess now on to
Your
your
time with buyers. 1 minute with buyers.
Hi, I'm Evan Byers, host of the 2-Minute Drill, and today I'm going to be talking about the Des Bryant-Josh Norman rivalry. Okay, obviously, the Cowboys and the Redskins, longtime rivals, this just adds to it. Josh Norman, it was widely considered the best corner going into the 2016 season, and he's really just been disappointing. With 43 tackles and an interception. Okay, you would expect someone of his caliber to be doing better, but he's doing really weak. Okay, there's so many corners like Xavier Rhodes, and notably, I have to go with Marcus Peters. He's a stud. Okay, so then let's talk about Des Bryant. He's had a pretty good game or season. 33 receptions for 550 yards, mediocre at best. Against the Redskins, he had 7 receptions for 102 yards. Josh Norman pretty much sucks. And here's what Des said about Norman. He said, better tell Washington to get their money back. That is an extreme insult. Okay?
Okay, welcome back. I'm sorry you had to see that active unprofessionalism from Evan Byers over there. What are your guys' thoughts on that?
I think you're really intelligent when it comes to the Dallas Cowboys, Byers. I was impressed with your insight.
Z, did you feel like you just gained a lot of knowledge and wisdom?
I didn't understand one thing he said over
You couldn't even
giggles.
spit it
Yeah.
out.
Well,
Little
to
giggle
be
fit.
fair, off camera, everyone else was laughing and it was making me laugh because I am the giggle meister.
Okay, thank you for watching. See you next time.
Okay. Go.
No, you can't laugh for that.